the biggest South Asian media group, Ymedia.
Let's get on with the results here, and we'll start with the Mississauga. So let's see on full screen what do we have here as far as the results is concerned. So here are the results. Yeah, if we can show this on the big screen. This is right across Peel region. If we can show, so PC party in the region of Peel, they are lagging behind. As much as we could say that they're ahead, but PC party, Doug Ford's PC party has a support of 29.9%. It's almost 30%, which is 29.9%. So, and then we have Liberals, Bonnie Crombie's Liberals in Ontario, they are 35%. So in the region of Peel, Liberal Party is definitely leading in the region of Peel. And then NDP, they are slipped to 10.5%. The official opposition in Ontario. Merit Stiles was here at our Channel Y studios. I spoke with her on a host of different issues. But in the region of Peel, they seem to be lagging far behind. The Green Party, 3.2% in the region of Peel, and others, 2.2%. This is all voters, and we still have undecided voters at 19%. And Quito, I'll start with you. What do you have to say about these numbers? Quito.
Yeah, Peel wide, these are very good numbers for the Ontario Liberal Party. Obviously, when you look at some of the crosstabs, you understand that, the Crombie brand is very, very popular in Mississauga. The lead there is much more substantial. Remember again, with the undecided 19%, we didn't do decided and leaning, but this turns into about 40% for Crombie across Peel. That's a very good number. Like I said, sweeping what I had expected really is sweeping Mississauga, and then competitive in a handful of seats in Brampton and a few others that are close races. So provincially, at least, it looks like Bonnie Crombie certainly has an impact on the vote intents. We knew this. It's her hometown advantage. So the advantage in Brampton is not. It's basically a tie in Brampton, and so. But at least that puts the Liberals into competition, unlike the last two provincial elections, where really, as you said, they've been decimated and wiped out largely in across the 905. So certainly mission accomplished so far. Okay, and Kimberly, are you surprised Conservatives lead as far as Ontario is concerned, but here in the region of the Peel, this is a Bonnie effect, you think, or the Liberals, you think, were already ahead in the region of Peel? What do you say?
I mean, I think Quito makes a good point. We just came off a leadership race where Bonnie was, all over the media and very recognizable. But it is her home turf. Mississauga, I would expect her to lead in Mississauga, certainly. I think that's going to be a tough city. All of those ridings are going to be a tough city for the PC government to do well in the upcoming election. And it'll be interesting to see with, as time goes on and the Liberals are doing, their campaigning and they're getting out there, to see whether or not that number moves at all in the Peel region, given the popularity of her just coming off the leadership race. So, I think Quito makes a good point around the timing. And again, it'll be interesting to see what happens and whether that moves. And, with the margin of error as well, part of me wonders if those races aren't pretty close between those two.
All right. So once again, these numbers are here for you on full screen. Before we start getting into the discussion as far as riding-wise is concerned, so have a look at these numbers once again. These are the numbers for the region of Peel. Once again, we like to remind you, there are still 19.1% voters undecided. So out of all the voters, we have 29.9 as far as the region of Peel is concerned for the Premier Ford's party, Conservative Party, then Bonnie Crombie's Liberals at 35, NDP at 10.5 in the region of Peel, 3.2% for the Greens, and others 2.2%. I still remember when Premier Ford was here, last time as well, and he mentioned that it's going to be 5-0 in Brampton. So, and once again, we saw this. Brampton did turn blue in these last elections. It was because I asked Premier Ford when he came here after winning his first term, and when he came to our studios, I said everywhere it's blue in most of Ontario, but you're losing in Brampton. Brampton, 3 seats for NDP. It was 2 in 2018 for the PCs. I said you're in minority in Brampton. So Premier Ford here in our studio, he said it's going to be 5-0 next time, I'm telling you. And yes, it was 5-0, all clean sweep for the PCs. But that was 2018, that was 2022, but here we are, it's 2024 now. And we get to get the details as far as the riding wise is concerned. But we clearly see the numbers, if I may show that once again on full screen, we clearly see that the PC party is trailing here. Could you, if I may ask you, do you think the green belt has anything to do with this thing? Because the green belt scandal, I mean, it did definitely hit them, because the cabinet ministers, they had to be moved out, shuffled out, and one of the cabinet ministers also had to leave the caucus. So the green belt issue, there are a host of other issues. So 5-0, a massive victory in 2022. But here we are, a few months later, the PCs are behind, once again back. So green belt or anything else? What do you say the reason?
Look, I think the green belt, we pulled the green belt issue very significantly. And for the first time since Doug Ford became the leader of the PCs, and the first time since he was elected premier, it's the first issue that has broken through partisan lines, and all the other things that Ford has been criticized for since being elected premier, it doesn't touch his base. And so what I think happened with the Greenbelt scandal, and is still happening, and will continue to happen for some time, I think, is that, even PC voters didn't like the revelations and continue not to like. It's sort of this very, and it's the first issue that has really touched his base in that way. So that was the danger of the green belt. And as we move forward, if more and more comes out of this RCMP investigation and other things, I think it will continue to hurt. His personal brand is well above that of the party, and that's why this particular scandal has been so damaging. Other than that, I'd say every political party has a shelf life. Every political candidate has a shelf life. And, after 6 years in government, and, all governments start getting fatigue, as voter fatigue. And so some of that could be a play here already. Just 6 years in, we know that Justin Trudeau, after 2015, looked like he might be prime minister for more than a decade easily. And here we are 9 years later, and we know his current state of popularity.
Okay. And Kimberly, before we get on to the riding wise, your final thoughts. Do you think, because it's the elections, because it's a majority government, the elections are not that close. It's still almost 2 years, 2026. That's the time we'll see another elections, most likely in May 2026. But I think, will the Greenbelt scandal go away by that time? What do you think about, they're talking about Highway 413. That's what they're trying to put across now. So your final words as far as the overall numbers is concerned, then we'll get into the riding wise analysis.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Greenbelt issue is going to stick for quite a long time, and I do expect that we will see that issue come up as a campaign issue pretty strongly when we get to the 2026 election. I don't think he's going to be able to lose that. I think he will be forced to answer that. And I tend to agree with Keto. I think it's the first time that the party themselves have struggled with, where that lands internally, and there is some divisiveness. because of it. And I do believe that in 2026 he will have to address that. I don't believe it's going to go away. And the new highway, the 413, I think that was heavily pulled. It was heavily looked at. There was a lot of consultation around that one. I think Ontario does need to build more infrastructure, and if that's new roads, new subway systems, or whatever they are, we have to do it in a conscientious, environmentally friendly way. And we need to get people moving better and faster. I'd obviously like to see some green energy involved in that. But I think Ontario does need to move through in a much more efficient way. I mean, any of us that have ever been stuck on the 401 understand that we need more places for people to go, so that we're not all sitting there in our cars with greenhouse gas emissions. So as we move towards electric, as we move with more green energy, I think there's going to be some positives coming out of that, and I do think it will come up in the election. It'll be interesting to see how they handle that.
All right, thank you so much. And here we get into the details. Riding-wise, we'll start with Brampton. We'll start with Brampton Centre. Let's quickly move on to Brampton Centre. The incumbent is Charlene Williams. She is also the cabinet minister. She's started as a councillor. She definitely started from the municipal elections. So she left her municipal seat to run for the Conservatives, and she did win. She went on to become the cabinet minister. So Charlene Williams, if we look at the numbers, so Brampton Centre. So when we ask this simple question, if a provincial election were held today, which party or candidate would you vote for? In Brampton Centre, Charlene Williams, 26%. The Liberals are ahead here, 34.3%. NDP, 22.4%. In third position, the Green, barely they could make it to 1%, it's 0.9%, and others almost negligible. So out of all these voters, 17.4% are still undecided. But if the election was held today, the Liberals could win a seat in Brampton Centre. This has been mostly a swing riding, if I would say, federally, provincially. But here it is, the incumbent cabinet minister, Charlene Williams. In today's Ymedia Mainstreet poll survey, she is trailing behind despite being a cabinet minister. And almost by good 8 percentage points, she is trailing behind. Quito, your take on Brampton Centre?
Yeah, I think it's important to point out, Ymedia, that the margin of error here at the riding level is substantially higher. This is based on roughly 100 samples, and so this is a substantial shift from where we were in 2022 when Ms. Williams won with, I believe, well over 40%. The Liberals were in third in this riding. But pretty close between the Liberals and the NDP. So it seems like things have certainly shifted. But again, just a caution on the sample size here that the margin of error is in excess of 6%. So an 8-point lead with a margin of error of 6+ is not as substantial as it may appear on the surface.
Okay, Kimberly for Brampton Centre, your quick take.
Yeah, I mean, I think Charmaine Williams has really worked hard with her community. I know she's been out in the community quite a bit. She's a first time PC MPP and a first time cabinet minister. So I think she's got a lot of work ahead of her still, and I think you'll probably see those numbers shift back into her favor. She's quite popular in her own riding. And, to Kito's point, we have to be careful around the margin of error here and what it really looks like.
All right. And now we'll quickly move on to Brampton South. Charmaine Williams is a cabinet minister, but Charmaine Williams, she's trailing behind. But another cabinet minister, Brampton South. Let's see what's the position as far as Brampton South is concerned. We have the Minister of Transport. He's been a cabinet minister. Prabmeet Singh Sarkaria. So Prabmeet Sarkaria, he is almost neck to neck. Brampton South, 26.5%. If the elections were held today, these are the voter intentions, 26.5% for Prabmeet Singh Sarkaria in Brampton South. Liberals, 26.5%. And then you have NDP at 3.6%. The Green Party, that's very interesting. The Green Party is at 8.1%. So Green Party seems to be doing even better than the NDP. I think they're pretty much out of the margin of error here. But neck to neck, as far as the Liberals and the PC Party is concerned, Brampton South. So Prabmeet Sarkaria has been very active in the community. Prabmeet Sarkaria has been a regular cabinet face as far as Doug Ford government is concerned in first term, 2018 as well, in the second term, 2022 as well. So a regular face, Prabmeet Singh Sarkaria is almost neck to neck. So it's almost, anybody's take because the numbers are almost even, 26.5 for PC, 26.5 for the Liberals. Quito, your take?
Yeah, same goes on the caution here, remembering that with a margin of error on this sample size, this could be a substantial lead for either candidate. I know Mr. Sakaria's work very well. We've met, certainly very popular gentleman in his community and in Brampton, and well-known cabinet minister. The other caution here is, remember that when we're asking this question as a generic ballot, we're not including Prabmeet's name in that ballot. And I suspect that if we did a riding-specific poll and asked about the candidates here against random Liberal candidate X, same goes for the NDP. Without knowing those candidate names, these numbers, we know that there are candidate effects, certainly with high-profile star candidates like Mr. Sarkaria, that he would probably perform better than this generic ballot that we've asked. So, yeah, but it's interesting because he won with 45%, and it certainly looks like it could be more competitive. Okay,
and Kimberly, your take on this one. Two cabinet ministers that we've discussed up until now, and we've seen Charmaine Williams clearly in trouble. She's trailing behind with the survey. And the second cabinet minister, Brampton South, he's almost neck to neck at a similar percentage. Your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think Prabmeet, if we had done the poll with those names in place, certainly that would probably have voted a little bit better for him. The other thing that I would keep in mind here too is there's a high margin of undecided voters on this one. It's 1/3 of the people that responded were undecided. So that also leans towards is he really that far behind? I'm not sure that he is. And again, I think he does a great job working in his community. He's certainly front and center. And, the leader, when we go to voting and we go to the polls, the leader has a large impact on what happens down at your community level. So, are we actually seeing the reflection of maybe what's going on with the overall party status, or are we seeing what's going on with each individual candidate? So, that'll have to play out. And as we see that undecided in that riding, and then when we add names in, I think, both these cabinet ministers you're going to see their numbers go up. And I think they're both going to be fine. They're really engaged in their communities. People certainly know their name, and they're very high profile. So I think you will see that each of those cabinet ministers go up.
Yeah, this is a bit of a surprise for me as well, because as you mentioned, Prabmeet Sarkaria, he's been very active in the community. He won the election in 2018 despite 3 seats going to NDP in 2018. But Prabmeet Sarkaria won from Brampton South. He stayed on, went on to become the cabinet minister. 2022, again a cabinet minister, won his seat comfortably. But here we are for Prabmeet Singh Sarkaria. It's neck to neck in Brampton South. Quite an interesting thing. This is quite surprising. Let's quickly move on to Brampton East now. Brampton East, this was a riding which was held by Gurratan Singh, the deputy leader for NDP. And now let's look at the numbers. So if I show you the numbers on full screen, here we see Brampton East, PC party, they have 25.8%. So the incumbent Hardeep Garewal, he's leading in this riding with 25.8%. It's not a big lead, but still he's leading. The Liberals are at 23.1% here. And NDP, on the back of the heels of Liberals, it's at 23.4. The interesting part is NDP is very strong in this riding. It has been very strong in this riding. This is the riding from where Jagmeet Singh won. It was earlier Bramley, Gore Malton, then it became Brampton East. So Jagmeet Singh's riding, it's called Jagmeet Singh's backyard. Then Jagmeet Singh's brother, Gurratan Singh, he held on to this riding, Brampton East. But last elections, 2022, the PCs took over. It was a big, huge blue wave, and Hardeep Garewal. He lost earlier in the same riding, Hardeep Garewal, but then he went on to win from Brampton East, Hardeep Garewal. But here we are, not a big lead, but still Hardeep Garewal is leading 25.8% if the provincial elections were held today. So 25.8% for PCs, Hardeep Garewal, and then you have Liberals 23.1% and NDP at second position, though it's not a big lead, 23.4%, and Green 1.8%, others 0.4%. Quito, your quick take.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, this is an interesting riding. As you say, it's been held by, well, this riding has changed distribution, but this riding and its predecessor ridings have been held by provincially and federally by all three parties in recent history. So seeing a three-way, you know, essentially there's a three-way tie. They're all well within the margin of error. Remember, this is also the smallest sample size that we got in any of the ridings. So I would say not terribly surprising that all three major parties are competitive and could have. This is certainly one to watch in the next election, but it's still 3 years away. So I just think, and it had the second highest undecided rate as well. So I would put this one in the coin toss category.
Okay, and quickly, Kimberly, your take on this riding.
Yeah, that's. I mean, Keto took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say this is going to be one to watch. I don't think there's going to be a clear winner here, and I think this is one of those ridings that's really going to depend on how well the party overall is going to perform. So yeah, I mean, it is a coin toss, this one.
Okay, and let's quickly move on to Brampton North. Brampton North, this has been a very interesting riding. Let's have a look at the numbers for Brampton North first of all. So on this riding as well, as we clearly see, the PCs are still holding on to the lead in this riding as well. So it's 31.7% for the PC party. The incumbent Graham McGregor, he's been a very active member in the community. He has won the riding recently, and the Liberal Party, they are trailing 28.6, but the lead isn't that much. It still can be covered. NDP far behind. Mind you, this is another riding which NDP used to be very, very strong in this riding. Brampton North, this was definitely considered as a strong NDP riding. NDP won in 2018. This riding, NDP won in 2018, but this time they lost in 2022, and now they're trailing far behind. So the Jagmeet Singh effect, we used to call Brampton East and Brampton North the backyard of Jagmeet Singh, but I think they're losing their effect here in these ridings. So Brampton North, clearly NDP trailing far behind. It's mainly between the Liberals and the PCs, back to the race between Liberals and the PCs. So 31.7% for PC, Graham McCraw, and 28.6% for Liberal. The Green Party, 3.3%, others 1.3%. We still have a lot of undecided voters. They're 23.4%. So a lot of votes up for grabs. Quito, your take.
Yeah, I would say, you know, we're seeing, you know, as you mentioned, this is, you know, a little bit surprising. The NDP has historically done well here with Jagmeet Singh federally, with his brother Gurratan winning this seat in 2018 and then losing it. I think, you know, next door in Brampton East, I mean, but the NDP in the last election, this is one of the few ridings where they came in third. So it's not that surprising. And I guess seeing that, you know, this is more the failing of merit styles, I guess, would be my point to make, that perhaps the NDP selecting a candidate that isn't as well known and connected in Peel is going to be a big challenge when you have, Bonnie Crombie as the Liberal leader, and you have Doug Ford, who's also quite popular in Peel, as he is in Toronto. So that could be the story of the next election, I think.
Okay. And Kimberly, a quick one from you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is very similar to Brampton East. I think it's going to be one of those ones that we're going to have to watch. I think the PCs stand a good chance at holding on to it. It looks like to me that what might happen here is the Liberal and the NDP might battle it out, splitting the vote a little bit, and then letting the PCs come back through. But again, with Brampton East and Brampton North, those will be the two to watch for sure.
Okay, and let's quickly move on to Brampton West now. Amarjot Sandhu, he's consecutively won from this riding as well in 2018. He won that in 2022, he won. He's been very actively participating in the community, so he is again in the lead. 36% for Amarjot Sandhu, 33.8% for the Liberals, and NDP, a clear collapse of NDP here, 6.4% in Brampton West, Greens 1.4%. There's not much room for Green or anybody else. Actually, for that matter, NDP also. I still remember in 2018, the NDP candidate worked very, very hard in this riding as well. So NDP, Brampton North, Brampton West, these are the two areas that we're seeing NDP has started falling behind in Brampton North and Brampton West. Brampton East is the only riding that I see NDP still holding on to. But other than that, I think NDP, other than Brampton East, NDP is not really doing well. It's mainly between Liberals and the PCs. That's what's happening in Brampton. So Amarjot Sandhu holding on to the lead here in Brampton West, but a very narrow lead here. Quito? Your mic is off, I guess. Quito, your mic is off. Quito, did you mute it?
My apologies. I might have been muted there. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah, please go ahead.
I think if you're Merit Styles or an NDP supporter and you're looking at all these numbers, but this one is really I would say, a head shaker, catastrophe. Remember this riding, the NDP lost in the 2018 election by like a point and a half, something like that, and then dropped to third place in the last election, and now basically is a two-way race between the Liberals and the PCs. These are concerning numbers if you're in Merit Styles' office today, looking at these, and they got a lot of work to do because this is a gigantic collapse from where they were just 2 elections ago.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree. These numbers are very concerning for NDP if you were in Merit Styles' office. A quick 30-second for you, Kimberly, and then we'll move on to Caledon and Mississauga. Yeah, Kimberly, can you hear me? Yeah, we'll quickly move on to Caledon now. I think we're losing Kimberly here. So here are the numbers for Caledon. So Caledon, we have Sylvia Jones. We all know she's the cabinet minister there. She's an incumbent from there. And she's got a good lead there in Caledon. So if you look at the Caledon numbers, the PCs are doing well there. The PC party has 34.8% support there in Caledon. The Liberals have 25.8%. NDP not doing bad as compared to Brampton ridings, I would say, 12.4%. The Green at 6.6%. There are not many undecided voters here. Precisely that's the reason NDP and Green, they've also done reasonably well. But PC is still strong with Sylvia Jones at 34.8%. Quito.
Yeah, I'd say, first of all, I just want to point out for your viewers and people who are going to read this poll, remember that this was a Peel region poll. So when we pulled these numbers, this is not the full riding of Dufferin-Caledon. So I want to make sure that's clear, that this is just the Caledon part, the vote intents in the Caledon section of the Dufferin-Caledon riding. So I would expect that if we were to add the Dufferin part into these poll numbers, that this would be a much more substantial margin for the PCs and the incumbent Sylvia Jones. It's just the nature of this riding. This is not a swing riding. We would not expect. I can't remember the last election that this particular riding was competitive, either federal or provincial. So.
All right, I think it's time to get on to the Mississauga ridings. We will show you one by one on your full screen all the 6 Mississauga ridings. So we've shown you the numbers for Brampton. Brampton, I think the Liberals are bouncing back. It's going to be not an easy task, though we still have some time for the provincial elections. It's almost a good 2 years, a little over 2 years actually, May 2026, that's the time we're looking at. So the Liberals, they have work to do. If at all, they want to win ridings here, but it's not going to be easy for PCs, either the provincial Conservative Party. They have to work hard if they want to maintain their leads. But this is a very interesting time. Quickly moving on to Mississauga now. Mississauga, the first one that we're seeing is Mississauga East Cookville. And Mississauga East Cookville, we have Khalid Rashid. We all know he has been with the Conservatives, but because of an issue, we all know now he's out of the caucus. He was the cabinet minister there as well. So, but you clearly see him trailing, even if they were to vote PC. You clearly see him trailing at 33%. The Liberals are strong in Mississauga East Cookville. They're 42.7%. Then 4.7% for NDP. They've almost collapsed here. It's 1.8% for the Green. The Liberals, is this the Bonnie Crombie effect now? Is this the Bonnie Crombie effect now? That's what we're seeing here. The Liberal Party, 42.7%. This guy, Khalid Rashid, was the cabinet minister, was with PC, but he's been moved out. So let's see the other ridings before I get to the Quito. Let's quickly look on to the other ridings, and this is Mississauga Centre. Mississauga Centre, again, oh my God, you look at that Liberal Party, 39.3%, very strong Mississauga Centre, and the incumbent, Natalia Kunstnova. Natalia clearly trailing far behind at 23.2%. NDP even further behind, 10.6%. Green at 3.7% and others 1.6%. So if the elections were to be held today, I think 39.3% for Liberals. This riding will definitely, Mississauga Centre would definitely go with the margin of error to Liberal. I definitely think so. Let's quickly move on to the next riding. Here's another very important person, Mississauga Erin Mills. Very active in the community, Sharif Sawabi, but trailing behind. The Liberal Party, once again here at 39.9% in Mississauga Erin Mills. Sharif Sawabi, 30.2%. And NDP, almost in lower single digit, 2.7%. Green, 1.5%. So Mississauga Erin Mills would clearly go to the Liberals today if the elections were to be held today. Is this a Bonnie Crombie effect or the Liberals are bouncing back? We'll definitely ask our experts later on. Quickly moving on to the next riding here. Let's see what Mississauga Lakeshore has to offer. Mississauga Lakeshore. Okay, this is quite interesting. The incumbent PC party, a member of provincial parliament, Rudy Cazzetto. Rudy Cazzetto is at 33.1%, but the Liberals are ahead here, 34.5%, though the lead isn't that big here, but definitely the Liberals are ahead at 34.5%. NDP 10.8%, the Green Party 2.1%. So this seat would have gone to the Liberals once again. So Liberals are back here as far as this seat is concerned. Let's quickly go on to our next riding now. Mississauga Malton. Mississauga Malton, Deepak Anand. Deepak Anand is trailing behind here, 30.5%. The Liberals very, very strong here. Oh, wow. 44.3%. That's a huge, huge lead, almost a 14% lead. A 14% lead in this riding in Mississauga Malton. The Liberal Party has 44.3%. Deepak Anand trailing far behind at 30.5%. NDP 7.7% in single digits. The Green Party is also in single digit, 1.4%. So if the election were held today, Deepak Anand would lose his seat, Sharif Sawabe could lose his seat, Natalia could lose his seat, and Khalid Rashid could lose his seat. Up until now, in the 5 ridings, there's only one riding, Rudy Cazzetto, which would stand a chance, but Liberals are leading there as well. 5 ridings, Liberals are leading all 5 ridings that we've discussed up until now. The 6th riding, let's go to Neena Tangri. She's again a cabinet minister. Neena Tangri, she's been a very strong candidate here. She's now the cabinet minister, 27.5%, 45.1%. I think the Liberals could make almost a clean sweep. It could be 5-1 or 6-0, 5-1 or 6-0. The Liberal Party is 41.5% in this riding, Mississauga Streetsville. Neena Tangri is far behind with 27.5% and 11.1% for the NDP, 5.5% for Green. So it could be 6-0. That's the big news that we are going to, I think this would be the headline here. That is the headline here. I think if I look at the numbers here, this will be the headline at Ymedia Mainstreet poll. If the elections were held today, Mississauga could go red. Definitely Mississauga could be 6-0 or 5-1 if the elections were held today. And in Brampton, the PCs are barely surviving. The Liberals are really coming back strong. The NDP, other than the Brampton East, I don't see them performing very well. So it's between Liberals and PCs in almost all the ridings. So we're talking 12 ridings here, 1 with Caledon, 5 for Brampton, 6 for Mississauga. So out of the 12, I would say just 1 riding we can say NDP is there, but all 11 other ridings, it's a toss between Liberals versus PC. But out of Liberals and PC, let me ask Quito. Quito, very strong performance in 12 ridings for Liberals or PC. If you had to pick one, and looking at the Mississauga ridings, I want you to take your analysis. Quito.
Yeah, if we look at the 2022 results, there were still, Mississauga was still one of the places where we saw Liberals still very competitive. Deepika Damerla, who's now only lost by 3%. Liz Mendez in Lakeshore lost by a couple of points. There was still hopes in 2022 that the Liberals would pick back up some of these ridings that they've held. They're all held federally by the Liberals, so certainly these numbers are not that surprising, given that it's Bonnie Crombie's home turf. I would be hard-pressed not to say that this is going to be a sweep for the Liberals. It's a little bit closer in Mississauga Lakeshore, not surprising. It's the demographics in Lakeshore are a little bit different than most of the rest of Mississauga. But like I said, Mississauga always swings one way or the other unanimously for parties, so this isn't surprising to me.
Quick synopsis. There's a quick synopsis of the provincial results. Ymedia Mainstreet poll. Ymedia Mainstreet poll, a quick synopsis of all the ridings, 12 ridings. NDP, I'll start with NDP because NDP, they're just active in Brampton East, but other than that, whether it's Caledon or other 4 ridings in Brampton or in Mississauga, NDP, it certainly would be a concern for Marriott Styles, for NDP leadership. They're not doing that well other than Brampton East. So in other 11 ridings, it's a very strong contest between the Liberals and the PCs. I'll give it to Liberals because they're very strong in almost 5 to 6 ridings. They could have won 5 ridings, they could lose maybe just 1, but very strong comeback by the Liberal Party in Mississauga. Whether this is a Bonnie Crombie effect, it's your call. As far as Brampton is concerned, the PCs are still holding on to majority of the seats, but the Liberals are certainly making a comeback. And Brampton Centre, Charmaine Williams, she's losing her seat if the elections were to be held today. So a lot of work to be done by all 3 parties in the region of Peel. That's our takeaway. That's the big breaking news as far as the provincial results are concerned.
Biggest South Asian media group, Ymedia.